Real people, real celebrities, real talk.
Join the Breakfast Club.
Blast off in your
Weekday
ear.
morning, 6 to 10.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy Angela Yee, Charlamagne the God. We are the Breakfast Club. We have a special guest with us this morning, New York City public advocate Letitia James.
Good morning,
Good
Ms.
morning.
James.
Good morning. How are you?
How are you?
Good. I'm fine.
Don't look nervous. This is a positive.
No, I heard all about you, so everybody's getting me nervous. The whole staff is in here. Everybody
what they said. What
they
did they
said they said just look out, and just because sometimes they come at you from the right, from the left, from the middle, and I just said,
we're right here on the right, left, and in the middle.
And I said, no, they look fine. I was listening to you. You know, reading up on your history, and
Don't
you're all
profile
good.
us.
That's what I said.
Don't profile us.
I know. They were
Profile
racially
us.
profiling you and putting you in a
Exactly.
box, and I said, no, out the box.
Putting preconceived
Exactly.
perceptions about you in our
Scaring
head.
me up since 7 o'clock this morning. Say, watch out. Yesterday, writing all these memos about each and every one of you.
Goodness gracious.
Yes, going way back.
messed up.
I'm clutching my pearls over
I'm
here.
They
telling
dug
you.
up all the dirt on us. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about here
Nothing,
today.
not at all.
That
And
can't be used against us.
And it goes against everything that I stand for.
There we
Exactly.
go.
Good.
Everything that I
Glad.
stand
But
for.
let's talk about the matter at hand, because we are here to talk about Eric Garner.
Yes.
God bless the dead.
May he rest
Now
in
explain
peace.
Eric Garner to somebody out there that might not know you, just in case.
A recap of
Yeah,
what happened in Staten
yeah.
Island.
Mhm.
We want to make sure we set everything up properly.
Okay, fine. So basically, Eric Garner was an individual who was standing on a street corner. He was known to a number of individuals. There's a conflict as to whether or not he was selling loosies or whether or not he was resolving a fight. Police officers who had known Eric Garner approached Eric Garner. There was some conversation back and forth. And ultimately, at the end of the day, they put him in a chokehold. The video is been shown throughout the world to a number of New York City residents. And that chokehold resulted in the death of Eric Garner. The police are saying it's because of he wouldn't otherwise, some individual who was in good shape like yourself would have survived that. But Eric Garner unfortunately died, and the police are arguing it's because of his weight and his health. I dispute that. The reality is that that situation could have been resolved. We could have de-escalated the situation. All we need is for individuals to communicate. And that's what's critically important.
You know what bothers me about that situation when you said that the police actually knew Eric Garner? Because I'm the type of person that advocates for more people from the community to be in the police force because they know people from the community.
Yeah.
If they knew him and knew he wasn't a threat per se,
Correct.
they didn't have to do that type of excessive force.
They didn't, and the reality is, again, it was just escalation, and it was consistent with, this broken windows theory, which is flawed, flawed. But
What
the
is the
police,
broken windows theory?
So the broken windows theory basically says that when you're in a hood, when you're in a neighborhood with a lot of poverty, and when you see broken windows, broken cars, and stuff like that, what you really need to do is focus on low-level crimes, and that will prevent high-level crimes. But it really it's nothing more than a over-aggressive policing in the city of New York and throughout this country, where individuals focus primarily on low-level crimes, and it has a disproportionate impact on people of color. What does that mean? More people, more black boys and Latino boys get arrested for basically nonsense crimes.
Do you think that police are more aggressive in those areas because it's a perception that people in those poverty-stricken areas are more violent than
No, I
everybody else?
don't. No, I don't believe in that. I believe that there are some individuals, like for instance, those two police officers who were assassinated. They were sitting there because the old women in Marcy and in Tompkins Public Housing were complaining to the police about drug dealing on Marcy Avenue, and so that's why they were there and on DeKalb Avenue. And I lived not too far and wasn't too far away when that happened. And so the reality is that there are individuals complaining, but at the same time, yes, there is disproportionate aggressive policing in our communities. Why? Part of it is stereotypes, part of it is misperception, part of it is a number of things. Part of it is because individuals tend to be a little bit more, expressive, more loud, whatever, and people don't know how to deal with it. For instance, and you have some police officers who are, poorly trained and who are, new recruits, like what happened to Akai Gurley, the young man in pink houses who was going up the stairway and the stairwell was dark. And you had this young police officer, two young police officers who were probably scared out of their minds and shot Akai Gurley, and he died as a result of that. And it has nothing to do, yes, the issue is the fact that we didn't have lights in the pink houses, but it goes more, there's more to the issue than that.
It should have been a rookie cop with somebody that's been on the force a lot longer.
But it also has to go to the fact that we've disinvested in public housing in the city of New York and throughout this nation. Republicans, and let me just say it, yes, I said it, Republicans have disinvested in urban centers throughout our city. I don't know about you, I'm old school. I used to roller skate. I used to bowl. What happened to all those centers?
We don't have none of those anymore.
Aftercare program.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now
Rec
what
centers.
they are shiny condos that maybe I don't know about you, but I know I can't afford.
Now let me ask you a question with the Eric Garner. Back to Eric Garner. A lot of police officers, if you asked them, they would say that he didn't comply. And they asked him several times to, I guess, put his hands behind his back, and he didn't comply. And if you don't comply, they have the right to use physical actions on him. Is that true in that case?
So again, they're saying that he resisted arrest, and there's a couple of things. Let's unpack that. One, police officers need to use non-lethal uses of force. Why is it always your gun, right? You got mace, you got stun gun, non-lethal uses of force. Two, you need to communicate. You need to tell them, one, you're under arrest and we have to use force to take you down. But obviously, I just think communication really is the key to all of this, and perhaps him understanding that if, in fact, he didn't comply, that they would use force. And last but not least, he said, how many times? I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. You and I, and anyone who understands and respects the humanity of others would have let up.
Yeah, especially when you already got them in handcuffs on the ground.
And what really, when I saw the video, what really hurt me more than anything else is the fact that they were pushing his head to the ground. And all that force. Was it necessary? I say no. And that's why we have gone to court and we are seeking to release, unseal the grand jury minutes. What's the grand jury minutes? The district attorney in Staten Island went to court. He sought an indictment, but unfortunately, no true bill, no indictment was voted. I want to know what happened because the grand jury process is secret, and no one knows what happened. No one knows whether or not he just put before the grand jury the charge of murder and nothing else. Perhaps something else should have been considered by the grand jury, and we need to know what happened behind closed doors. Let me go on to say this. The reason why I really wanted to come here is the only way you get on a grand jury or a petite jury is when you vote. When you vote. When you vote. And the reality is that the vast majority of people who are voting in New York and all across this nation are people like me. Individuals above the age of a certain age. I won't go there. Above a certain age.
24, right?
24, God bless you. Above 50 who vote, and who are black women and Latino women. Everybody else, they don't vote. And particularly men. Latino men, black men, men of color, period, don't vote.
And we complain the most. And
you complain the most.
We say things like, oh, the government ain't looking out for us.
That's right.
How you know? At least
we need you on those juries.
I mean, look what happens in Ferguson. I mean, it's a minority district, primarily a black town, a black district, and there's not hardly any black elected officials. I think there's one.
Right.
That's a disgrace, an absolute disgrace to all of the ancestors who died, whose blood were on the street because of us. We stand on their shoulders, and the reality is that in Ferguson, the majority of the residents there do not vote, and that's what they get, and that's why they don't have a voice.
Now, if they release these transcripts, what will that do? How will that help?
So, one, it will give comfort to the Garner family. Two,
it seems so secretive. It makes it suspicious. Like, why can't we know what happened in that courtroom?
Exactly. Secrecy breeds suspicion, and that's why people are suspicious. And we do know that the district attorney of Staten Island is now running for what? Congress. And I urge everyone to, do what they got to do, go out and vote. But the reality is, I think, as New Yorkers, as people who are of conscience, people who care about justice and who are committed to justice, who believe that Dr. King said that injustice needs to be revealed to the natural elements of air and light, need to know what happened behind closed doors. How many of those grand jurors were of color? What were the charges? How did he interpret the charges? How did he interpret the law? What did he explain? What was the evidence? Who were the witnesses? 50 witnesses. Who were they? Now, we can protect the grand jurors. We can protect everyone. We don't need to know their identity. But the question is, what was presented? And was this nothing more than justice denied because of whatever reason? And we need to know that. It's important to know that the judge who originally heard our application has now stepped down. He said he had a conflict. He should have exposed that conflict before. So we're going to Staten Island February 5th.
Right. They said it was delayed because of the snow.
Whatever. Me, the Legal Aid Society and the ACLU, we're going to court. But young people, my young people who I love, I'm a former defender. I represent young people all the time. They knock on my door every day saying, Tish, I'm in trouble, take me to court. I get mamas and grandmamas and uncles coming to my house saying, Tish, going down to criminal court, my kid is in trouble. We got to put an end to my other side job. And two, we got to vote and make sure that we are part of the solution and not part of the problem. So that's why I'm here in this hip-hop community saying to all my hip-hop heads, You got to vote. You got to be involved. You got to take this serious.
Now, can this go to a higher judicial system where it can possibly be overturned or looked into? And is that possible?
You know what's crazy? You see the
possible.
Darren Wilson case
Yes.
got quietly dismissed by the feds.
Yeah.
You didn't hear nothing about that.
Nothing. And the feds can step in here and they can indict him, you know. And so we're waiting for Eric Garner or Loretta Lynch, hopefully, who will be sworn in from Brooklyn. And she could look at this case and make a determination as to whether or not this police officer should be indicted.
So now that's the.
Well, I hope you're wrong. I just know that what we need to do, if in fact those grand jury minutes are released, we need to go forward and we need to reform the grand jury system. You know, in Missouri, they have an open grand jury system. We need an open grand jury system in New York. We need to reform the grand jury system. We need more people in the grand jury box who look like you and me. We need to make sure that young people get out and vote and voice their opinion.
Now, I saw there was an idea, perhaps, that in all these cases where all these cops are killing, in particular, unarmed people, to try to make sure that those, at least, are unsealed to start with.
So right now, our application is primarily focused on Garner. And so we really want to unseal Garner so we can talk about reforms. But going to NYPD, we need more officers of color promoted to leadership positions. And so beyond the position of captain, you rarely see any people of color, which is why I was so concerned when one of the deputy commissioners stepped down recently. We need, his name was Banks.
Okay.
And he was right below the position of commissioner. And he retired or for whatever reason. But the bottom line is there's an absence, not an absence, but there's a disproportionate number of, it's not diverse beyond the position of captain. And we need more people at the table of decision making, more people, more black, Latinos, and Asians at the decision making level. And hopefully one day we'll have a commissioner of color in the city of New York. But at this point in time, we're promoting diversity in the position of leadership.
You speak your mind.
What steps should we start taking to help minimize the amount of police brutality towards minorities? And that's a weird question because I feel like they should know not to be brutal against us. You know what I'm saying? But what can we do?
So we need we need community policing. We need more police officers on the ground. 2, we need more police officers of color. 3, we need more police officers who live in the 5 boroughs. 4, we need more seasoned police officers to remain on the job. We also need to, what I hear from residents in public housing, I used to represent Fort Greene, Ingersoll, Whitman, Farragut, Atlantic Terminal, and Lafayette Gardens and Bedford-Stuyvesant. I know the residents in Marcy and Pink and all the public housing in Brooklyn for the most part. And what they say is when they consolidated housing police with transit police and regular police, it was a big mistake.
Yep.
I hear individuals who say housing police knew everybody. And now they no longer have housing police. They have these special patrols that come into public housing and patrol. And when residents of public housing had their own individual housing police, they knew everybody. And now that's no longer the case.
Well, I think with that, too, is my dad's a retired police officer, but they gave them, I don't know if it was bonuses or different things if you stayed in the community. I know we grew up in Queens, and I think it was easy to get a loan at that time for my dad if he stayed in the community. I don't think they offer things like that because a lot of cops, they don't want to live in the community. We lived in Queens, and everybody knew my dad was a cop in Queens, and they knew that if anybody needed help, that was their protection. But let me ask you a question. You speak your mind. You're very honest. Barack Obama, our president, we voted for him, Democrats, African American. Do you think that there's more that he can do for a lot of these cases that you just mentioned earlier?
I think he needs to speak up about the issue of race. He needs to embrace his identity and who he is and his experience. And listen, he's got, 2 years left? And so he's not facing re-election. He shouldn't fear anyone. He needs to talk honestly about the issue of community policing, about relations, and about race in this nation. And that's what he really needs to do. He needs to take it on, and we need to hear from him. And I think he shied away from the issue for whatever reason. And I think the issue of race needs to be in the forefront of the minds of countless number of New Yorkers, white people, black people, Latino people. We need to confront it and talk about this issue and not be afraid of the consequences. And I've done that and will consistently done that. And here I am, the first African-American woman citywide. But having this title means absolutely nothing if you don't do anything with it.
Right.
You don't think President Obama did kind of when he put like Attorney General Eric Holder on certain cases?
He did, but I think that people need to hear it from him. Young people in particular, he should come onto radio stations like this and talk to young people.
People who voted for him.
Because there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect, and there's a sense that most young people, that most politicians don't care about young people, and people in government and people in positions of high places really don't care about young people. And I walk the streets of Brooklyn each and every day, even though I'm citywide now. I need to maintain that common touch, so I know, I have a sense of what's happening on the ground. And it basically keeps me real, and it keeps me honest, and it keeps me humble, and I know where I come from and who I come from.
Right.
How does a public advocate make a living? Because, we would love to see more people become public advocates, but like you said earlier, people be like, hey, man, I got to go get a job. I got to get some money,
You look at a rapper, looks like a rapper makes more money, it looks like, drug dealers make more money,
I mean, what you're doing is amazing.
I
It is
abhor
amazing.
drug dealing because I see too much damage of drug dealing, so let's not go there. But listen, politics, it doesn't pay a lot, but it's an honorable profession because I can affect change,
right,
and I can make a difference in the life of someone. I was responsible for body cameras for police officers. That's good. I worked with others to get that implemented. 2, now middle school children all throughout the city of New York have free lunch because of the efforts of our office. Fabulous. Individuals who are homeless now have housing because of our efforts. We talk about homeless people in the city of New York because of our efforts. We're talking about sexual assaults on college campuses because of our efforts. We've got a host of issues that we've been talking about. So yes, no, I can't. I'm not all fancy, and I don't have.
We can't afford those condos, those new condos in Bed-Stuy.
And I don't have labels on them. But I'm not a slave to fashion. What I am is a slave to justice and a slave to freedom, and making sure that we speak truth to power each and every day, and don't shy away from that.
How do we make the city better? Like you look at de Blasio and the police officers obviously are not getting along. How can that possibly work when they not effing with the mayor? Like, that's crazy. Excuse my French.
That's okay. But you know what? You got to understand. Okay, so why are the police behaving the way that they are? It's nothing more than a labor dispute. They want a contract. They've been without a contract for X number of years. And so everything else that they're talking about are really nothing more than excuses. And they've toned it down somewhat. They want a contract. They want a raise. They're having a difficult time living in the city and in the state. They want a raise. They also want to be respected. I understand that. Those 2 officers who were sitting in that car innocently, who were assassinated, may they rest in peace. We've got to make sure that we improve police-community relations. And those police officers who do good, we got to, shout them out. Those police officers who do bad, we got to single them out, and they got to be removed.
Do you think body cameras are really effective, though? Because, I mean, we see these stuff on video now.
Yeah, we see the footage.
Right. But the reality is we wouldn't be here. You probably would not have invited me here but for that camera. But
they wouldn't have gotten as much attention as it did. We wouldn't have known what did happen if it wasn't for the camera.
Exactly. So a lot of people said, yeah, Tish, you got cameras, yeah. And I felt bad for a while. Then I started thinking about it, but we're talking about Eric Garner and all these cases because of the video camoras.
Without that video camera, it would have just never, we would have never even heard about it.
It feels more insulting, though.
It does, but it motivates you to do something, to have conversations about policing on your radio show, to take time out of your busy schedule to talk about issues that people care about. True. And so I thank you for that. I mean, because we really have to have, discussions about what's happening on the street. Yeah, hip hop is good and music is good and culture is all of that, but there's some serious issues that are happening in the city. And if young people don't know about it, they're going to be left behind.
And I do think it's really important to communicate with the police officers and for them to communicate with us. I was telling them the other day I had an incident with the police officer, and I actually went online and filed a complaint with the Civilian Complaint Review Board.
Yes.
And then I sat down. They do a mediation where you sit with the officer and you get to talk to them directly. I do feel like it wasn't that effective because he wasn't really trying to hear what I had to say, but I was trying to explain to him that what I'm trying to tell him is that the way that he treated me, I was like, that's what leads to problems and issues with people not wanting to go to the police. I said, if I had an issue and I saw you there after our interaction previously, I would never want to come to you for help. And I don't feel like I should feel like that. You're a police officer. I should feel like you're helping me. You're pulling me over because you said I didn't fully stop at a stop sign. But I asked him what his name was. He covered his he covered his name. He wouldn't tell me his name. He told me he didn't have to, and that he wasn't required to do that. He was rude to me. He said, just look at the ticket. I said, well, the reason I'm asking is because I can't see your name on the ticket. You scribbled something. All I wanted to know was, officer, what's your name? I was very polite, and he was very rude to me. And I tried to explain to him as we sat down in this mediation, part of the reason why things happen is because you have to respect people. Like, I respected you as a police officer. I'm in a position where I don't want to say anything crazy or act crazy because I don't know what could happen to me. Right. You're in a powerful position. That doesn't mean you should take advantage of it and treat me like I'm not a human being and like I committed some ridiculous crime.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And training is key. I think it's important to understand that of the 20,000 cops, the majority of them have been on the force for less than 12 years.
Right.
They're young.
Right.
And all that they know is Police Commissioner Kelly and his quota-driven system.
Yes.
And stop and frisk. So that's why 20,000 police officers have to be retrained. And they have to be retrained on respecting individuals and listening to you and understanding that they have they're under an obligation to give you their name and to be respectful of you. And so I'm glad that Police Commissioner Bratton is retraining all 20,000 of them, because crime is at an all-time low, a low. And so now it's more interaction, and we can't be driving up these numbers by engaging in these ridiculous crimes. Like riding your bike on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And
What can you do if a police officer stops you? A lot of times you feel like a little helpless because what am I supposed to do? As a cop, if we go to court, they're definitely going to take a police officer's word over yours. What can you do in a situation where you haven't done anything wrong? Like I even see in the Eric Garner situation, the man who filmed the whole incident, now he's saying that they planted a gun and said the gun, there was a gun on him. He's saying that he had nothing to do with it. He wants to go and take DNA tests to prove it wasn't his.
Right.
Let's say it wasn't his gun and they did plant it. What can you do?
So you need a really good attorney. I was a defense attorney, and I'm still a defense attorney. And you need individuals who stand up and protect your rights. But individuals need to know their rights. And so I join with other organizations all throughout the city of New York, and we give Knowing Your Rights seminars to young kids of color, so that when they interact with police officers, they basically know their rights. And it's important that now police officers will have a body camera, and they're now required to activate that body camera whenever there's a street encounter. And if they do not, then you should get some identifying information. Don't confront them,
right,
but just get some identifying information and then report them to CCRB, their local elected official. And every precinct in this city has a precinct community council where every month you go to a meeting and the commanding officer is there and the police officers there are there, and you can confront them and ask them questions in regards to the policing in their particular precinct. And the vast majority of the precinct councils that I go to, you know who's there? Old black women.
Wow.
And old Latino women.
Well, let me ask you a question.
And you know what they do? They sit around and they feed them. And it's fabulous.
I know you got to go. but with all these protests that's going on, you see so many different protests and all across the country. Should people be involved with these protests? Because a lot of times people don't even know where these protests started from. They don't know if it's a side agency. They don't know what they can do to help.
And are they effective?
Yeah, how can they help, and are they effective?
So I think, Occupy Wall Street and a number of street community organizations are engaging in constructive protest. And if you go online to Occupy Wall Street and to other organizations, you're going to see a list of demands, and there are 10 demands. And one of the demands includes a special prosecutor, which I have supported along with our Attorney General Eric Snyderman, as well as body cameras, and as well as making sure the grand jury minutes are open, and a number of other initiatives that they're recommending. And I believe in constructive dialogue. Listen, the governor of the state of New York included in his State of the State address issues of reform. That did not happen because, one particular incident. It happened because of protest. The whole Occupy Wall Street incident, the issue of income inequality. We would not be having that discussion but for protest. But it has to be constructive protest.
Take it back to Selma.
And Selma as well. And so all of us coming together, protest is probably our most powerful, I don't want to say weapon, but I guess that's the only word right now. It's our most powerful weapon that we have at our time. And we've got to use our voices. And we've got to use the power of our feet and march and talk about issues that we care about. That's the only way we're going to get change in this government, and hold your elected officials accountable. How many of you know your city council member? How many of you know your assembly member, your senator, your congress member? How many of you even know what a public advocate does? How many of you even know the controller? How many of you have ever attended a hearing?
Right.
We've had hearings all the time about displacement, gentrification, about policing. Again, when I look in the audience, who do I see? People over the age of 50. Where are my young people out? I'm shouting you out. You got to respond. You got to hold us accountable. You got to be active. You got to take this serious, because your future is at stake.
There you go. Word. Well, we appreciate you joining us.
And we will definitely be watching
February. With you.
There you go.
We'll definitely be watching February 5th to see the outcome.
Absolutely.
And, as everything progresses.
Thank you.
And we got your number now.
And can I come back? Can I come back?
Absolutely. Anytime you need
Even though you went to the fake HU Howard University.
Wait a minute. Wait, don't you go
I
there.
went to Hampton. Even though you went to the fake HU, we still appreciate you, all right? Letitia James is the Breakfast Club.
Thank
Good
you
morning.
so much.